Well, sensual healing, from my perspective, starts with an understanding of who you are as an essential man. Because we're speaking, but if you are solid and you learn an appreciation of the feminine aspects of yourself, you want to include that with your masculine expression to come to the reality that a lot of the things that we are taught goes against our true nature. That our sexual being is sinful. But the truth of the matter is, as we stated in the beginning, if you're your core,
Yeah.
you are truly masculine, and there's a way to build up that core.
You know what thoughts come to mind when I suggest that men are sensual beings? No, I'll be honest with you. When I think about sensuality, the first thing I think about is not me. My wife, absolutely, but just not me. And here's the issue. As men, part of identity is focused on that one part of our body. And as long as we can take care of business in the bedroom, well, then we live in our full masculinity, don't we? The unfortunate thing is as we get older, that part may not work as well as it used to. And that is why it's so important for us as men to learn and understand how we can heal the masculine through sensual healing. Now, in the meantime, if you're interested in raising your standards as a father, a husband, or an entrepreneur, then I encourage you to participate in our Band of Brothers group mentorship program. We're a group of ordinary guys working towards living extraordinary lives. You can find us at the Awakened Man Training Academy at members.theawakenedman.net. And with that, let's get on with today's episode.
The average man today is sleepwalking through life, many never reaching their true potential, let alone ever crossing the finish line to living a purposeful life. Yet the hunger still exists, albeit buried amidst his cluttered mind, misguided beliefs, and values that no longer serve him. It's time to align yourself for greatness. It's time to become a revolutionary man. Stay strong, my brother.
Welcome, everyone, to the Revolutionary Man podcast. I'm the founder of the Awakened Man movement and your host, Alan DeMonso. Before we get started, I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Would you consider yourself to be a sensual being? And if not, why not? So much of our identity is focused on a few aspects: career, income, and sexual ability. And now, while these do play a part about the things that we are, and generally are attributed to external validation, but just as important is being able to know how we are internally. And for that, we're going to explore how sensual healing can radically improve our internal and external validation. Now, to do that, my guest today is going to share his story and guide us how we can heal ourselves. So allow me to introduce my guest. Haleem Abdul-Rahman is a coach of sensual health who has done extensive research on supporting men to overcome mental, physical, and emotional stress from being able to express the sensual aspects of the masculine. He's the creator of a 6-week erection determination challenge that has helped hundreds of men reclaim their sensual lives. Welcome to the show, Haleem. How are things, my brother?
Yes, thanks. I appreciate that fantastic introduction. I think this is a very, very, very important topic for men, especially because without addressing certain aspects of ourselves, that is the internal aspect, we are essentially walking around the planet half of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I would even go as far as to say less than half, because the internal world is far greater than the external world. I mean, if you use the analogy of the Earth itself, the planet that we live on,
yeah,
and you say what aspect of the Earth is physical, you say, well, a very small part when because most of it is space. And that's the internal world that we come from. And in fact, if you look at our male sexuality, we begin, every child, whether they're male or female, begins as an internal sexual expression. The doctors don't know whether it's going to be male or female until maybe the second trimester, and the scrotum drops, the penis drops, and you have external reality. But that external reality is supported and maintained by the internal reality. And that internal reality is the aspect of our sexuality that most of us just, go our whole lives without acknowledging. We ignore it until we reach a condition that we call andropause.
Yeah.
And things start failing us. And then the medical doctors, the allopathic doctors, they're going to give you some Viagra, or they got these different tools, but it's all focusing on the external penis itself, and nothing is working to engage the internal, and that's where the power is at.
Completely agree with you. Completely agree. And what a great way to start our conversation with today. Now, I had mentioned briefly about all this extensive work, but in our men's work here, we always talk about everyone's being on their own hero's quest or their hero's journey. Now, I know you've had some quite the challenges yourself. So tell us about a particular time in your life when maybe that you were faced with a challenge and you really felt lost and you knew things had to change. What did you do, and how did that experience shape who you are today and the work that you do?
I appreciate that. I've had challenges from childhood. I was separated from my mother at the age of 3. So my first memory is in an orphanage crying. That's my first memory. And to be honest, most of my childhood was in depression, but I didn't know it because, I was an athlete. I was a dancer. I, doing external things to suppress the internal hurt. I would engage in street drugs to silence the hurt. And as a result of using street drugs, heroin and cocaine, I had developed a condition of cirrhosis of the liver, hepatitis C, and HIV. All those things came to manifestation when I decided that I would get off of the drugs. And, it came to a surface that these were my challenges now. It's not just me getting off the drugs, but I had some health challenges that I had to overcome. And the doctors at that time, they told me that they didn't have a cure, because whatever they did for my liver was going to weaken my immune system. And I already had, a weakened immune system, and that would do it even more. And what they did for the HIV would hurt my liver. So they was like, but I did come across a holistic, in fact, 2 holistic doctors who gave me, a way of healing my liver from the cirrhosis and the hepatitis C, and how to strengthen my immune system. And in the process of me doing all that, of course, the doctor saw the difference in me. I began to glow. My blood, was now circulating, and I, still had the condition. And when I took the medication, everything disappeared. So that was my first health challenge that I overcame.
Yeah.
And you know how the human mind can trick itself, or you think that you got it together. And along the way I started, eating potato chips and cookies and all, the crazy stuff, and ended up with diabetes. And the diabetes left me totally impotent. My lady, she do everything in her power to try to bring me up, and, nothing. Goes to the doctors, they give me the Viagra, Cialis, nothing.
Yeah.
I go back to my old knowledge. I was like, okay, so if I was dealing with this from a holistic standpoint, what would I do? Begin with my internal health. And so I began to approach it from that standpoint, all the clogged arteries, get rid of, the clogged artery, working to boost my testosterone levels, massaging the internal, what we refer to in our 6-week program, the internal penis, which is the prostate, and all the ducts and the blood vessels that connect with the external, massaging those things. We got tools to massage them and to, unclog them so that the blood can flow in the proper way. And as a result, get stronger erections, different exercises that we do. And I was amazed, man, at the difference between how I felt internally, mentally, physically, and the way that I felt about myself.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the way that my lady began to respond to me. It's the difference between night and day. When you are pleasuring and pleasing your lady, you get less of her stress coming back at you because you're relieving her of her stress. It's a healing process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely want to get into some of that work that you were talking about, but I also want to, you're really starting to tell us a little bit about, I think, how this interest in sensual healing really got sparked in your life. And so tell me a little bit more about, what you were just describing. Is that what you are describing as what sensual healing in, or is there other aspects to it as well?
Well, sensual healing, from my perspective, starts with an understanding of who you are as an essential man. Because we're speaking from a masculine perspective. It would be a different definition if I was speaking it from a female perspective or a feminine perspective. But from a masculine perspective, it is about connecting to the inner reality of your being. Now, I know a lot of guys, you start talking about, the inner reality of your being and stuff, feeling certain ways, but that's only if that's the way you are anyway.
Yes.
But if you are solid and you learn an appreciation of the feminine aspects of yourself,
yeah,
you want to include that with your masculine expression. It's not going to be a feminine expression. It's going to be an inclusive expression. And so any man who knows anything about himself knows that he has both we call testosterone and estrogen levels. And of course, the testosterone levels are higher than the estrogen levels. And that's the way that we want to maintain it.
Yes.
But we don't want to neglect the estrogen levels because the estrogen contributes to a solid erection, believe it or not. And estrogen also contributes to longevity. When you, like engaging and you're stroking or you're grinding, whichever one, and you're like stimulating the estrogen qualities within yourself with the stroke.
Right.
Pulling, and releasing.
Right.
All the whole anatomy of our being tells us that there is a quality of being that we have to, develop and express in order to be whole. So when we talk about sensuality from a masculine perspective, we're talking about being able to verbalize pleasure, being able to sound out pleasure, being able to articulate feeling and hope and desire and, faith and, all these terminologies that are not necessarily in the masculine vocabulary, but in order to be whole and sensual, we have to include them in our masculine vocabulary. And you will be surprised when we do it and when we speak certain feeling words from a masculine voice,
Yeah.
it gets the woman wet. She starts to cream all over herself
Mm.
just with our words.
Yes. And unbelievable, right? And I think that's you touched on another important part that I wanted to make sure we talk about today too. And some of the notes I made, I had written down about how we're needing to be able to, we need to know who we are as a man internally first. And once we understand that, then I think that gives us more freedom to be able to express ourselves. And I think it's part of when maybe you'll agree with me on this comment here I'm going to make, is that I think because of how we were raised, we haven't learned as men how to be able to really have that sensual expression. And don't you think that once we do that, that's just even more important for human vitality?
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 1000%.
Yeah.
Like as boys, to use an analogy, we stomp our toe up against the wall and it hurts. We start crying. Our parents, father, mother, aunt, uncle, society says, shut up, stop crying like a little girl.
Yeah.
In some cultures, they might even go far further and just say it like a little girl and call you I don't know, how the language on this particular broadcast, but they call you a B.
Yeah.
Stop crying. And we hear this, and we just a child.
Mm-hmm.
And it's traumatic for someone to tell us that we acting like a little girl. We know that we are seriously hurting, so we toughen it up, which in some instances, and we do have to be tough. But the way that it's presented to us, oftentimes it allows us to disconnect from our feelings. And, being disconnected from our feelings from early childhood, then we come into our adolescence and, the testosterone comes up on us, but we still in some ways connected to the inner being. And, our first experiences with the girl, and she, using her femininity and whatnot, and we connected to it, but, we don't want to give in to the aspect of feeling, and, our boys be like, man, you got your nose wide open, You know what I'm saying? But we want to be poetic.
Yes.
We want to be charming. We want to, have those expressions. But society is telling us if we do these things, then we're acting outside of the masculine paradigm, which is false.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I think that's part of the challenge. Biggest thing that we have to overcome, right, is that we've been put ourselves in this silo from how we were raised, how society has portrayed us, and now we're starting to see that expansion. And in some aspects, I think it's expanding a little too wide, but that's for a different show to talk about. And I think in other aspects, we still have so much further to go. And so when I came across your work, I just thought it was so important for us to talk about this kind of stuff, especially for men that have challenges with, and where a large part of our identity is focused on how we are as how we perform in the bedroom, but not as a truly understanding as a sexual being. That regardless of whether you're in your 20s or your 30s, or in your 50s or 60s, there's aspects of us that we need to be able to release and understand and embrace. And it's still that part of that work. And so that leads me to the next question I wanted to ask and talk about. You've already touched on a little bit on, but what was your process, and what would you recommend for people to start to do this detoxing specifically our mind, our thoughts, and our feelings?
That's great. In terms of detoxifying mentally, we have to, what I did is come to the reality that a lot of the things that we are taught goes against our true nature. That our sexual being is sinful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the natural expression of it, to have a thought. You know, I mean, I'm elementary school kid, and I'm looking at my third grade teacher. She got these hairy legs, and when she walk, you know, I see the sway, you know, and I'm like, damn, you know. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, this is sin. I shouldn't be looking at her like that. You know, even though my natural response to her feminine energy is, you know, I'm feeling it. Even as a child, I'm feeling her natural, you know, it's not to say that I'm going to act on it, but her femininity is building up my masculinity.
Right.
But if I'm shutting it down, and I'm thinking that I'm wrong, I'm engaging in, you know, a sinful act just to think about it, then I'm going to like shut that natural process down. So the first aspect of detox from a mental standpoint is like coming to a conclusion that I am right. My being, the way that I'm designed, I'm good, I'm beautiful, I'm handsome, I am, you know, connected to all that is. And from that standpoint, my feelings are correct. The way that I feel about myself now is correct. You know, I'm not having a big ego, but I'm not having a diminished ego either.
Right.
You know, I'm right there in the middle. I love myself. I'm good. I'm a beautiful man. I'm a handsome man. I'm, you know, and because I'm connected with everything that is, that I too am being appreciative to all that is. I'm showing love to all that is. That's the trees, the air that I breathe, you know, everything that is, I'm one with that. And so, you know, when I do that, now I'm like having to pull the toxins out of my body because I know that I'm breathing the air, I'm eating foods, I'm doing, you know. So in order for me to be the purest of expression, from time to time, I got to detox. Just like, you know, from time to time, you got to go to the bathroom, you know, get rid of the waste that's in your being. So from time to time, I got to detox. I got to drink lemon and cucumber water. I got to, you know, like really empty my bowels, pull the toxins out of my prostate, pull the toxins out of my pancreas, pull the toxins out of my liver, out of my kidneys, out of my brain, so that I can function in my highest state. I was just telling a friend of mine this morning, I said, I feel like I need another detox. He was saying, you know what? I felt, you know, we must be on the same plane because I feel the same thing, you know. And that's, you know, when you're in connection to your feelings, you know, your body tells you certain things, you know, and you're connected to those things. So, yeah.
Absolutely. You know, and that really is the whole process of us starting to repair ourselves, right? And we're really starting to do that. And so you touched on a little bit about your program. So how do we go about repairing ourselves now? And what is some of that work, without giving away the whole program, but what is some of that work, some ideas? So well, guys understand what it is that you're doing.
I appreciate. And we started off with the detox. That's exactly where our program started, with detox. You know, seeing ourselves as whole beings and getting the toxins out of ourselves so that we can think clearly, feel clearly, and function without a lot of guilt and without a lot of repressed anger and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's number one. And from there, we go into diet, the type of foods that we should consume
Mhm.
that works to enhance our libido, enhance our ability to deliver from a sexual standpoint. From there, we start dealing with certain exercises that we can use to, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why I started with the exercises, because I know the mindset of a lot of guys is like, well, if I'm not seeing some improvements immediately, I'm dropping out.
Yeah.
So I put the exercise right behind the food intake, so they can start to see that, that their erections, you can feel it coming.
Right.
I was totally impotent, but when I started doing, my exercises and got my power tools to, like clear the blockages from my inner penis and working the external penis and doing certain things, you could feel it coming.
Right.
Wasn't there all together, but you could feel it coming. And the more I engage in it, the stronger it got, and it's just a beautiful reality. But we deal with that. We deal with getting all the stress that is blocking the circulation.
Yeah.
The cortisol, the bad cholesterol, the plaque, all the heavy metals, removing all those from your being, and then in the end, we deal with strokes. Engaging the vagina in a way that it's not well, we're trying to kill it,
right,
but we're trying to pleasure it.
Right.
So, and we call it mapping the yoni, mapping it, hitting the pleasure sensations and then going deep. And many of the exercises that we do in our program is designed to prevent premature ejaculation. So that when we do the strokes and we go deep, we're not fearing that, we're going to ejaculate real quick, because we talk about the need to not suppress the ejaculation, but to hold it back. So depending on your age, like me, I'm 67 years old, so I'm like ejaculating, like maybe twice a month.
Right.
Sometimes I'll go longer.
Yeah.
Depending on how I feel about myself. But, it's not good from my research to just hold it and never release it. Sometimes you got to release it because you got to bring in a renewal. We'll start renewing it all together. And then I talk about different herbs that we can use to build up the semen count,
Right.
so that when you do ejaculate, you get a load.
There you go.
Yeah, you get a load, you know what I'm saying?
Man, did I hear you right? Did you say you're 67?
Yeah, I'm 67.
Brother, you look outstanding. I can't wait to look as good as you do at that age. That is phenomenal.
I appreciate
the work
that.
you're doing is definitely showing is proof right here. So we do put this up on YouTube as well. So make sure you watch this episode on YouTube. So listen, if we're in a relationship, how important is it for the individuals to heal at the same time, or does that really matter?
I don't think it matters that we heal at the same time. I think what matters most is that we are open to healing, because she might be bringing an area of healing that I'm not open or I haven't been open to, but by me being open, she can bring me a healing that benefits me. Right. And at the same time, I can bring a healing that benefits her. it's all according to the development of the individual. So as men, we know, I don't have to tell you, most of us know that when we're not right, when we're not feeling strong and capable, our tendency is to avoid the feminine, or the ghost. We call it ghosting her. She's over there, I'm over here. She comes close to me, I'm going over because I don't feel empowered.
Yeah.
But when I feel empowered within myself and she comes close to me, my embrace in and of itself puts her in a submissive state. And from her submissive state, and when I say submissive, I'm not using submissive in the BDSM standpoint, even though I don't knock what their system does. I'm just saying that that's not the only definition of submission. But when you embrace her and you got your thing together, she's more or less feeling that you can care for her, that you can guide her, that you can protect her, that you can support her, and she's softens for your deliverance. And because you know that you're capable of giving a deliverance, then you have that much more to offer. Conversely, like when she's empowered and you have a trust level for her, and she's coming to you as the teacher, or the dominant factor, and because you trust her, you as a man can move into a submissive posture and be healed by her energy. So it's not like you're fighting to who's going to be the take the lead, and you fighting to make a determination. I will never let a woman tell me anything. I suppose you have that you made that inner peace with your inner self. So you understand that the universe itself is teaching you all the time. And if the universe is bringing your lady in this particular moment to teach you something, then you open to it.
Right on.
We call it gender harmony, as opposed to, I got to be dominant all the time. And the notion that the man has to be dominant all the time creates stress and cortisol. And it's one of the reasons why men tend to die early from heart disease. Don't be afraid to lose control.
Absolutely. I really like how you've really framed that about helping the explanation around the submission piece. And it's so beautiful and I got a great picture there of when you talked about, when you're holding your lady and having her just, relax into that comfort, right? And that feeling of security and safety, which is what they're really looking for. And then likewise, when they're the teacher, us being able to relax and settle in. And even if that mindset is, hey, you know what, it's good to be taken care of. I don't have to do all the work this time.
Right.
I can rest into this and take care of it. So this work must extend beyond the bedroom. And if it does, how does sensual healing help us beyond there?
Well, for me, and I think I spoke with this earlier, one of the main factors is the way that your lady begins to treat you. She begins to treat you like you are a king. And as a result of her treating you like royalty, you become and begin to think of yourself in a higher manner. So when you engage your children, you begin to engage them from a reasonable standpoint. You don't have to be this disciplinary, hard, insensitive guy.
Right.
You develop a compassion, you develop a wisdom, you develop foresight, vision, and even vulnerability. You don't have to be afraid. I was telling my son, long before, about my history.
Right.
That I wasn't always the man that I am today. Mm-hmm. That I went through drug addiction. I went through I was in prison. And so he was like looking at me from a different light, but saying, "Damn, Dad, I ain't." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm telling you these things so you don't have to think that you got to be perfect.
Right.
You can experience whatever you got to experience, but understand that when you experiencing whatever you're experiencing, that you come at it with a precision and a knowing that you can overcome it. This is nothing for you to wallow in. It happened to you, for a reason. You understand the reason why it happened, then you seek to overcome it, Yeah. So, I mean, to answer your question, like, when you empower yourself from a sexual standpoint, from a sensual standpoint, you put yourself in a position to master life itself, to become better on your job. You're stress-free.
Yes.
And as a result, this is the way that you're conducting yourself. This is the way you're carrying yourself. You be in the presence of, fine lady that one time you couldn't even, look her in the eyes. Mm-hmm. But because of the level of confidence that you have in your masculinity, you can look her in the eyes, and you don't have to put her down because she, is powerful and she's wealthy or whatever. Mm-hmm. You look in her eyes, and you can support her. You can compliment her, and lose nothing of yourself in the process.
Well, exactly right. And it's because we're grounded and centered now, and that we can stand in our fullness and not have to and not have the fear that we're less than, because that is just a figment of our imagination.
Right.
What a great conversation we've had. Now, if everything that we've spoken of today, and maybe there is something that we didn't get a chance to touch on, what would be the one thing you'd want our listeners to take away from today?
Well, for me, what I would like us guys to understand is that the system that we are operating under is diminishing who we are, essentially. Now you have the top level of men in society. They call them alphas, the alpha male. Excuse me. But even the alpha male is missing an aspect of himself, because in his mind, he has to always be in control. And, the other 90% of us, we think that the alpha is the masculine model. So we trying to, emulate that. And we put ourselves under all kind of stress trying to be in control. And so if there's anything that I would like to tell the guys, is that while an aspect of masculinity is being in control, another aspect is releasing the control. Because, in order to learn, in order to be a student, in order to grow, there's an aspect of ourselves that we have to release. And I use the sex stroke, go back to the sex stroke. When you give it, and like if you're only in that masculine thinking that you got,
yeah,
soon you're you're going to be quick, and then you're done.
Yes.
But if you have the balance and you're giving, you'll last so much longer.
Yeah.
Because you have the balance of giving and receiving.
Yeah.
And the receptive qualities of the masculine, which in its essence is feminine. And there's a lot of guys are afraid of the notion that, I got to connect with my feminine quality because it might, make me feel, kind of, all of that. But the truth of the matter is, as we stated in the beginning, if you're in your core, you are truly masculine. And there's a way to build up that core, build up that core. So, the way that you feel about yourself is totally masculine, but you can incorporate the release factors, the relaxation factors, within that core power, ability, production, the ability to produce, all of that. Right. And then at the same time, you're receiving. So you become a balanced human being. And I think that is, this is where life is pushing us to, because there was a time in the creation where the hunting gatherers and the time of conquering and all the there was a particular aspect of masculinity that was needed in that moment, but we're moving into a space now where a more relaxed expression of masculinity is needed, not negating the fact that we still are strong, capable, able-bodied men, so we got to bring that other element in, and we'll be, beautiful. Because just think about it. Yeah. Who are the most expressive verbally in terms of poetry, in terms of art, in terms of, the wonderful aspect of creativity, and men have always been there.
That's right.
So now we're just talking about creating a reality where we bring our whole being into it as one. We call it cognitive consonance, where our mind, our conscious reality is connected to and not any different from our internal and subconscious reality. We're one whole, no dissidence whatsoever. We just being who we are, and we're true.
Absolutely. What a powerful way to round out our conversation today. I just want to say thank you so much, Haleem, for being on the show.
First thing I want to do, I want to give people a way to get in contact with me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We need to do that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So positive manhood LLC at gmail.com. Positive manhood LLC at gmail.com. I would love to have the gentleman to email me and say that they want to be a part of the 6-week course. If there's some ladies listening and they like what they heard, they can tell the men in their lives, their husbands, even their sons, that I think this is an excellent way for you to proceed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. And for sure, I'm going to make sure that we're going to put that information in the show notes, as well as some of your social media contacts out there, so that people can get an opportunity to get out and reach out to you. And I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show and shedding some light on how important it is for us as men to be in tune with our sensual nature. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me. But one thing I'd like for you to do for me is to send me a way for me to stay connected, because you had talked about the it's unity, a brotherhood that you're a part of.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I'd like for you to share that with me so I can get back in contact with you.
100%. I'll make sure we do that. No problem.
All right.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Revolutionary Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is the Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.